I imagine many, if not all of you who have kids have experienced this. One parent is getting into the car with their kids. You're heading out the door, and one of the kids yells, "Shotgun." For those not familiar with the saying, they're not asking for a weapon. They're asking for the front seat. They're asking for the place of honor. The place reserved for adults if there happen to be two of them in the car. Now, you may be giving them important information about the upcoming day at school, who's picking them up at night, telling them how much you love them, but at the moment, they simply don't care. At the moment, all they care about is who gets the front seat. In today's gospel, we see the same thing happening. The disciples don't even hear Jesus sharing his most important, painful, life and death information with his friends. They're too busy arguing about who is the greatest. They're too busy calling shotgun. But Jesus, ever the teacher, tells them that if they want to ride shotgun with him, they better check their hearts. The winner of the front seat for Jesus won't be the smartest, or the strongest, or the best looking, or the one with the most money, but the one who has the greatest heart. And really, it's quite more than that. Jesus seems to be forever holding children in front of us. And we, rightfully so, think of that as cute, precious. Jesus wants us to be simple. He wants us to have a simple faith like a little child. He wants us to be childlike. But once again, we miss the point. And we miss the point because we're looking at it with 21st century eyes. We're thinking 21st century thoughts. But those who heard Jesus, those who saw Jesus place a child in the midst of them, and then say to them, "Whoever receives one child such as this receives me," they would have been astounded. You see, in Jesus' time, a child had no standing at all in the community. They were powerless possessions. They had no rights. They had no standing. They were really outsiders of the community. And so when Jesus says, unless you receive a child like this, he's saying, unless you invite the outsider in, unless you look at someone not for what they can do for you, unless you see and until you see all people as valuable, you don't get the right shotgun with me. The contrast that Jesus is making here is the contrast of the greatest versus the nobody much. And while the disciples were bickering about which one would sit at the head of the table one day, Jesus reached down and took a nobody child and presented it before them. And he announced, "My kingdom is different kind of greatness than you seem to understand. My kingdom is about inclusiveness. It's about giving voice to those who have been silenced. It's about giving a place to every person. It's about the one who wants to be great, achieving greatness by being the servant, the lowly among you." It's as if Jesus is saying, if you can understand this, you understand the purpose of my being here among you. It's as if Jesus is saying, look, people, it's not about you. It's about God's grace to all. Your job is to spread that love around to all the people. The disciples in our gospel today are in need of coaching, and Jesus gives it to them. But they simply did not get his message. My friend, here's the key question for us today. Do we get his message? Do we realize that we still need some coaching? Or do we already think we know all that there is about our discipleship journey? Many years ago, I had a friend of mine go to a kind of paramilitary summer camp. They did all the physical training, they did maneuvers where they learned the strategy of warfare and learned how to shoot rifles. My friend tells the story this way. He said, the day came for us to go down to the firing range and learn to shoot. Now, I've never handled a firearm in my life and really had no desire to start. But I did sign up for the program, so I had no choice. Most of the guys around me bragged about what great marksmen they were and how they had learned to shoot from a very young age. A competition arose to who was going to shoot the best. Needless to say, as a complete novice, it was clearly understood that I would not even compare with the experts. including the ones who knew they were so great. After we were done, the shooting instructor pulled me aside and said, "I can tell you've never shot before." And I asked him how. He said, "Because you had no bad habits to unlearn or egos to overcome. You were open and ready to receive and learn from me, and that's why you were able to shoot so well." My friends, therein lies a lesson for us. Are we willing to learn from Jesus? Or do we let our egos stand in the way? Can we be humble enough to know that we aren't quite there even yet, that we still have a lot to learn? 17th century philosopher and theologian John Clegg once said, "They that know God will be humble, and they that know themselves cannot be proud." Clegg reminds us of what Isaiah reminded us of 2,500 years earlier. "For my thoughts are not your thoughts, and my ways are not your ways, declares the Lord." When we stop and reflect on the marvels of our God, it should humble us. We can't know all of God's ways, but at the same time, we should never stop trying to draw ourselves ever closer to our God. The apostles in our gospel today did not get that lesson. They were too busy yelling shotgun. But in time, they did come to understand it, and then